Good evening, everyone, wherever you're watching us from. This is yet another section, the day 2 of our Global Scholarship Summit. And it's not anything less than what it has been from day 1. So today, this evening, we're going to be doing another spectacular, mind-blowing section with our wonderful guests. And we all know that the topic before us this evening is data as the new gold. And the truth is, we can't call this gold if it has not really passed through the processing stage. And that is what the speaker of today will be putting us through. I am with my pen as usual and my book to jot down important things, because trust me, nobody wants to remain in this country and I don't know about you. So I will quickly be running down through the citation of the speaker before she takes the stage.
She is a professional with 8 years combined experience in finance and accounting, risk management, and data analytics. She has worked as a financial auditor with Ikeji Co Chartered Accountant and is a risk analyst with Deloitte. She's a 2019 TEF alumna and co-founder of Accounting and Finance Resource Center, ACFRC, a platform for training young aspiring chartered accountants in Nigeria. She's a graduate of economics from Anambra State University, holds an MBA from Quantic School of Business and Technology, and Postgraduate Executive Education in Data Science and Business Analytics from the University of Texas, Austin. Outside of her work, she believes in maintaining a culture of learning and personal development, and to this effect has facilitated various personal and career development sessions. She is a professional with 8 years combined experience.
So if you're ready, just like the way I am ready, I would be welcoming our speaker for today, who is no other person than Onyeka Okonkwo.
Thank you, Chinyere. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm Onyeka, as usual. And today we're going to be talking about data as the new gold. Chinyere, thank you for that introduction. It was wonderful. I'll be sharing my screen now. That's right. Okay, give me a moment. Okay. So like Chinyere said, let me just keep talking while I go. Today we are talking about data as the new gold. A majority of what we will cover will be around understanding data. Okay, we're up. Understanding data and too much problem. Okay, so today we'll talk about understanding data, what the hype is all about. Why do we say so much about data, and why in recent times? What does this mean to you as an individual? How can you get into the field of data analytics? So I'm going to throw around a couple of words: data analytics, data science, artificial intelligence, intelligent automation, you know, all those data, everything we talk about today. And then we'll go into learning how to get started if you want to get into the field, and what you need to do moving forward. What we will not be talking about today is very technical details about data analytics. So I'm not going to go into all the machine learning, visualization aspect, but we will cover it as it pertains to businesses and different sectors like healthcare and sports. All right, so a brief introduction. Before we get into the hype about data, how did I get to know about this? Okay, so there's a backstory here. In 2017 rather, during my ICANN induction, I can hear someone in the background. In 2017, during my ICANN induction, I sat down right there, pre-induction actually, with a couple of about 5,000 people. And we are listening to multiple lectures from veterans in the accounting profession, talk about audits, talk about accounting operations. And then Mr. David Brown came on stage, and he began to talk about considering analytics in accounting. That was fresh. It was very new. I'd spent the last 3 years going through ICANN, and there was no talk about technology in all the syllables. I mean, I wrote about 12 papers in all, and not at any point did we talk about technology in accounting. And so at that moment, my prior knowledge about technology in accounting just had to do with using accounting softwares, ERP softwares, QuickBooks, Sage, bespoke softwares that maybe banks would make use of and all of that. And so whatever he was saying at that moment, it was new information. I was really eager to understand what he was talking about. And then he spoke so much about Power BI for reporting and how accountants could try to become more than regular bookkeepers in a company. And it piqued my interest. I'm bold enough to say at this point that and the whole 2 days we spent for the pre-induction and the induction, that's the only thing I actually remember from 2017. And so I went back to work that day and I went online and just Googled analytics. And I began to read multiple articles about it. I began to understand a bit more what he was talking about and how I could actually incorporate it into the work I was doing as an auditor and as an accountant a couple of times when I'm on secondment. And so all of 2018, I spent time researching. I wasn't taking any formal courses. I was just completely researching analytics in accounting, analytics in business, analytics in sales. And then by early 2019, I was ready to officially begin learning. So that's the backstory and what brought me to this particular point here today. So what's the hype about data? Think for a moment and try to imagine how much data we generate per day. You as an individual, you step out of your house, your phone probably has its location services on. And so Google is constantly mapping everywhere you've gone to. I don't know, maybe you probably get the monthly reports like I do that is creepy and interesting at the same time. And you step out of your house, you go to use the bank, you use the ATM, right? You use your phone, for those people who use phones with sensors, you use your fingerprints to unlock your phone, you use facial recognition to unlock your phone, you use eye recognition to unlock your phones too, and all of that. They tell you your camera has AI stuff within it, or you play video games. Those who play video games, PS5 is out, and these things have sensors, right? And so we begin to imagine at this point, even when you use the web, you go on websites, there have been stories where people say, oh, I had this conversation with someone on WhatsApp and we talked about schools. And then I went on Facebook and I started seeing adverts about schools right there. Oh, it's so creepy. And so we if we think about this, you realize that we spend so much time generating data. A lot of time. Pretty much every activity we do, you breathe data, your body generates data as it is. And so you think about this and there's so much data out there, right? It's actually been there for as long as possible. There's just so much hype about it today because someone somewhere said it's the sexiest job of the 21st century. And so everybody decided they were going to be data analysts instead, or data scientists rather. And if you probably look at some articles from way back, you see that as far back as 2006, there are people who have been working with R, who have been working with Excel, which is the most popular business tool today, and who have generated data using all the softwares already. But today there is a lot of hype about it. And the majority of this hype lies around big data. So because we're talking about data here, and so much of it has to do with numbers, stats, figures, I've brought out some for us. Okay, so here we can see we generate 1.7 MB of data every second for each person in 2020. That's just like me alone generating 1.7 MB of data per second. How much do I generate in 24 hours? And I'm always on my phone. In 2 years alone, 90% of the world's data had already been created. And what this tells us is that there are so many people today who are generating data more than we had years ago. And this is what we call big data. Big data has 4 characteristics, usually 3, but I added a 4th one. It has velocity. At the speed of light, there's just data constantly generated. It has variety. It comes from so many different sources. We'll get to that eventually. It has volume. It is massive. Maybe at some point you may have tried running some files on Excel and it took you about 3 days to run them. And you just left your computer to just keep working while you went to do other things. And it also has value. We will get to value very soon. But when I talk about value, like Chinyere said at the start of this, gold is, in its raw state, is nothing. It doesn't have any value to you until you actually, you mine it, you do whatever it is they do with gold, put it in heat and all of that, and then it comes out really perfect and looks like something you want to own. So that's exactly what data is like. Like gold in its raw state, it doesn't give any value to anybody. But when the right person with the right knowledge and the right tools is able to use those data to generate values for businesses, they can generate insights that can actually respond to answer business problems as they come. So these are a lot of numbers, exabytes and quintillion bytes and zettabytes. I have no idea how many zeros are involved in all of this. It's a lot of zeros. So just to give you an idea how much data we generate as people. So why is this important to us? Like I said before, without processing data, it's nothing. But data is also a source of information for us. There is so much within each tiny bit of it that can be useful in making decisions. For businesses, they can drive profits, they can increase their customers, they can reduce their costs just by understanding what the data is telling them. So in the hands of the right person, in the hands of an expert who can analyze it, extract the insights, companies, individuals have opportunities to gain advantage and drive profits. Now we say so much about companies. Let me talk about individuals a bit. I use an Android phone, and there is this application on an Android phone called Digital Wellbeing App. What this app does is to track how you use your phone each day. It tells you what apps you opened, how many times you open those apps. It tells you how many times you logged into your phone, how many times you unlocked your phone per day. It basically tells you your activity on your phone. Now, if you're somebody who wants to spend less time on social media and more time doing something productive, that's information right there telling you, this is what you've spent your time doing today. You've logged onto WhatsApp 300 times. You'd be surprised to get information like that. And then you can tell yourself, okay, I'm spending so much time on WhatsApp. I can spend this time doing something entirely different, like reading a book or ceiling gazing, whatever rocks your boots. And then you can decide at that point to reduce the time you spend on WhatsApp. Luckily enough, the same app gives you the option of reducing how much time you spend on certain sites. So you can lock it and say, for the next 1 hour, I don't want to be on this app. And no matter how you try, unless you go back to that settings, if you click WhatsApp, it's not going to open until the 1 hour is up. So this is some way that data can be useful to us as individuals. So we talk about businesses so much, and not everyone is into business. But as individuals, think about how the data you are generating as a person can be useful to you. You go to sometimes to the hospital and they check your BMI, your height and your weight and a whole bunch of calculations, right? And they tell you, oh, you're overweight for your age and for your height, and you need to lose weight. And you probably must have done something that got you to that point of being overweight. So think about this in more realistic terms. What is data and how you're actually making use of it? This office I'm sitting down in right now also has sensors. So if I sat down at the point for too long, my power goes off until I move again. So sources of data. We have 3 major sources of primary data. There's the social data, machine data, and transactional data. Social data, very common. the time you spend on all the social media networks you go to, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. These are the three major ones, right? Even LinkedIn, the likes you put on posts, the comments you make, the videos you upload, general media, TikTok, you know, your public website, you go on Google all the time. You see at the end of each year, Google releases this report where they say, this is the most searched for term in Nigeria. And it's things like how much is spent to get married or something weird like that, though, you know. Those kind of information is what people go to look for on the internet. And these are sources of social data. Machine data, we have weblogs. For example, sometimes you visit a website and you see this pop-up message that comes up there and asks you about your cookies setting, preferences. If you don't have a knee-jerk reaction to just click accept all, and you choose the select manage preferences option, if you click that instead, it will give you about, I think, 3 to 5 options telling you what kind of data they are going to collect from your time on that website, because the business actually needs to use it. And so you have the option of going with the standard you know, data they need, just what they need for marketing purposes at that moment, just to understand your user behavior on the website. And you have the option where they can take a lot more information out of that. So all of those are available as your weblog data. Then we talk about sensors. I'm wearing a smartwatch right now. This is Fitbit. Beneath this watch is a green light, which is a sensor. This sensor tracks my heart rate. It tracks my sleep pattern. It tracks a whole lot of things. And this is also a source of data for it. I can go on my phone and I can get a summary at the end of the day. It tells me how many steps I took per day, if I actually climbed the staircase, and how many of these I took, how many times I did it, how long I slept in the night. If I spent 5 hours sleeping, did I really spend the whole 5 hours actually sleeping? I could have been awake for 2 hours. I could have been in deep sleep for 1 hour, in REM for another 1 hour, and then I could have been lightly asleep for a couple of hours also. So this is data my body is generating. So we think of data, and just think of it in this way. It's very realistic. It's all around us. You as individuals are like the biggest sources of data out there. You generate them and people use them. Video games, satellites, road cameras, wearable technology like this one and the Apple Watch, and then transactional data. When you go to shops to make purchases, or you make payments online through Paystack or Flutterwave, from online stores, when you go to physical stores and you make payments in cash upfront for goods that you have purchased. These are transactional data. The businesses use this data to understand at the end of the month or whatever period they have in stock for them and say, this was the goods that were sold the most during this period. These were the goods that customers did not buy. This is how much we sold in cash. This is how much we sold on credit. These were the people we made outside deliveries to, and this is the delivery receipt. So all these records we keep. At the base, I'm an accountant, so transactional data is very, very important to us. We like to see physical evidence of transactions made. And all these are sources of data we can get out there. So why is data relevant to us now? It's always been there all this time, but why do we need it now? I'm going to first of all talk about data literacy, because it's the foundation of everything data. I said earlier on that people need to understand how to use data. You need to understand not just how to get insights from it, but also understanding the insights someone else has generated. So I'm going to read this the way Gartner actually defines it. So Gartner defines data literacy as the ability to read, write, and communicate data in context, including an understanding of data sources and constructs, analytical methods and techniques applied, and the ability to describe the use case, application, and resulting value. The simple question all boils down to, do you speak data? Let me break down this definition so we can get the key points out of it. Key point number 1, reading data. If I give you a chart today and I say, explain the content of this chart, can you do that? Do you understand what you're looking at? Can you write it? Can you create this stuff on your own as an individual? If I give you raw data, just a couple of numbers from anywhere I got them from, and say, get information from this for me. Can you do that? Can you communicate data in context? In context is a very key word here, because if I am in the business of commodity, household commodities, the information I want from data is different from the person who is in real estate. It's different from the person who is in maybe manufacturing of cement like Dangote. What he wants is different. The kind of information he needs to generate is different. So within context, you understand the business case, you understand the value it is to that particular business or individual. Can you communicate that? The CEOs, again, want certain kinds of information different from what maybe your HOD might want, different from what the regular cleaner might want. Can you communicate information that is relevant to each individual? Do you understand the sources of this data? We talked about sources earlier. It says social data, transactional data, and machine data. Do you understand the sources, how we got them? Can you analyze this data? So this is where we get to the technical bit of things. Do you know how to use the applicable tools? Do you know what tools are necessary per time? People are so crazy about machine learning models and using random forest and decision trees. And sometimes a simple linear regression can get the work done. So do you know what methods and techniques to use that are useful for that particular case, not just anything at all? And then the ability to describe the use case, the application, and the resulting value. That's the summary basically of everything else. So really ask yourself right now, do I speak data? Here's an example. I kind of hope that we would be able to interact with this chat together, but that doesn't seem very possible right now. So let me just walk us through this. Take a look at this chat from Fox News. This is from 2013. Some guesses about 2012, 2013, but it will serve the purpose we want. If you take a look at the length of both bars, noun being sometime in 2012 and January 1, 2013 being later, it's showing the effects of tax cuts if they expire. I'm going to assume at this point that George Bush being the president at the time, tax cuts, so he's giving people 35% taxes as opposed to 39.6% taxes. Now take a look at the length of both graphs. Without looking at the number, it already just appears that the difference when this tax cut expires will be more than 50%. It will be about 60 to 70% difference. A layman will look at this and scream like, what? Let's not change the taxes. Let it just be there. Let's extend the tax cut till infinity so we don't have to pay so much. But take a closer look at the numbers. The difference between 35% and 39.6% is just about 4.6%. And yet the graphs make them look like it's about 70% difference. So what's the problem right now with this graph? If we take a look at the y-axis, there it says top tax rates at the corner. We see that the scale begins from 34% and then rises up to 42%. What happened to zero? If you took regular mathematics when you were in secondary school, high school, depending on your location, when you draw bar graphs like this, bar charts like this, you start from zero and then you walk to maybe 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. Now let's just imagine for a moment that we actually did that. 34% was 0, 36 was 10, 38 is 20, 40 is 30, 42 is 40%. And mentally in your mind, move these graphs upwards to where 35% and 39.6% will be. You see that the difference between both, the changes between now and January 1st, 2013 becomes very tiny. So this is part of data literacy, understanding how to read data provided to you. In the hands of a layman, this looks like a very gigantic difference. It's enormous. In the hands of someone who is data literate already, he knows that this information is designed to confuse people, to pass across the wrong information, maybe some kind of political stuff, who knows, Fox News and CNN, And then, so this is why data literacy is actually very important to us, so that when the media supplies the information like this, you can tell what it is and what is wrong with it immediately. So let's look at a couple of use cases. We'll talk about use case in business, in healthcare, and in sports, because these are the most common things everybody can relate to right now. In business, I've talked about this a bit before. You can use data to find new customers. understand the demographics of your customer, those you already have on ground. If you take their information, sometimes you can tell most of our customers live in Lagos metropolitan areas. A few of them are coming from Ibadan, a few of them from Ogun State. Like, so the majority are in Lagos, right? Their age range, our customers are between the ages of 25 to 40. So these are early career professionals to mid-range career professionals. You can actually tell that just by looking at the data they've provided. Improving customer service, increasing customer retention. If you're in customer service, you probably get a lot of phone calls from clients complaining about something or the other about your business. Using data analytics, you can analyze the information they provide to you and see that sometimes the majority of the complaints that they give, maybe it might just be about one particular thing. Maybe you have a website or you have an application, a mobile app, and then you just changed one small way they used to access something on that app, and then everybody's confused. And so 80% of the calls you get, they just complain about that single thing. Once you're able to solve that friction, you've already cleared out about 80% of the issues you have. So you make your customers happy, and happy customers stay. Happy customers help tell other people about your business, and they help you find new customers also. So these are some of the things that you can get from understanding the data you have. A lot of businesses have data, but they don't know what to do with it. So as a data literate person, it is your job to help them understand their data better. I'm going to rush through this. You can read some of this later. Help you solve problems. We've talked about that already. Understanding your performance. You made profits, you made losses. Year-on-year profits, how was that? Look at the trend, maybe 5-year trend. Were your profits increasing? Were they reducing? Were they stagnant? What could possibly have caused it? Was there a change in something in the economy? Was there a change in how you sourced your customers? Did you change how you address your customers? You know, what happened in between? Data can help you find that. I've included a link here. It's a PwC report. I encourage everyone to actually click on this link and look at that report. They talk about different sectors. I think it's PwC US actually. We talk about different sectors and how data is being used in those sectors, those that have been completely penetrated by analytics, the benefits it has gotten out of it, those that haven't gone that far yet, like financial services and the frictions that are involved in all of that. It's very interesting. You should read that. So look at healthcare. A recent study published by Google AI on diagnosing skin diseases using deep learning. So when you're using data analytics or data science at this point for medical purposes, if you get an accuracy as high as 97%, you really tried. Like, you did something right, obviously. I mean, there are other metrics also for evaluation, but based on this, if you're able to diagnose 26 skin diseases with an accuracy of 97%, that's fantastic. You know, you've done good work. And it was performed using deep neural networks, machine learning, and data science. So some of the common algorithms used in medical image analysis were anomaly detection algorithm. So what this does is, it takes a scan basically of the human body, right? And it can tell when something is out of place. You can take a scan of your brain, and then there might be a growth somewhere, right? It picks that out and says there's a growth here somewhere in your brain. And then the doctors can check for that and see if it's maybe a tumor or, you know, aneurysm or stuff like that. An image processing algorithm analyzes your image, enhances and denoises them. So if you've ever been into photography, there's a possibility that you've taken a photo before when it's dark, and then you have these tiny grains on them. We call that noise. So some of the mobile cameras you use today actually washes your picture right there at the digital level when you use a JPEG, and then tries to clean it of noise. So sometimes they're over processed, but we're not going to get into all of that. So the point is that with some of the technologies we have today to use in analyzing data, a lot of this can actually be done right now. So these are some of the use cases in the healthcare sector. If you are within the healthcare sector, I encourage you to go online. You can see, you might find, you will definitely find research papers on stuff like this. So read a lot about that and see how data is being used, analytics is being used in that particular sector. And then sports. Data analytics was used in sports for baseball. If you've seen the movie Moneyball, It's on Netflix. If you've not seen it, I encourage you again to see that movie. So what happened in Moneyball was that there's a baseball team, the Oklahoma Ace, Oklahoma Athletic Baseball Team. And these guys were poor. No, they are rich teams and they are poor teams, people that play football, that watch football. So these guys were really poor. And then a lot of clubs were poaching their best players and they were trying to keep them, but you can't pay for a player, then I don't see why they should stay unless they are Messi, who feels indebted to you or something, or just loyal. But these guys they needed to win games. You need to win games. You're in sports, right? And they wanted to get to the major leagues. And so what they did was, there was this Harvard economics graduate, Paul de Podesta. And Paul de Podesta found out that you can actually get players that other teams undervalue. They'd be really cheap, demand and supply, right? And then he could use them within the Oklahoma Athletics baseball team, pay them little money and get results out of them. The important thing was that you wanted to win about 20 games and that you actually win the 20 games. I think they got to a point where they were able to win about 7 to 10 games at a stretch, like back to back to back to back. And no other team had done that before. So what this did in the end was that these people won as much games as the Red Sox won. And they spent pretty much about 1/10 of what the other team spent on their players. And they got the same results. So this is some of the information, some of the value that you can get out of taking advantage of the data you have available to you and analyzing them properly. Seriously, go watch Moneyball. So your learning options. We'll spend some time here. We still have a bit of time. The most important question I get from people is, do I need to have a math background, a computer science background? Do I need to have coded in my whole life to get into analytics or data science and survive in it? The answer is no. You don't need to know any of those things before, but you need to learn them now. So it's not a field that is, out of bounds to anybody. Anyone can get into it, but you actually need to be ready to learn all this stuff. So you have learning options. You can go online, you can go to classes, maybe go to get a university degree, or you can join a boot camp, or you can do all three. Your choice, if you have the money to pay for it. Now, advantages of going online. When I say online, I mean using edtech platforms like Coursera, edX, Udacity, Udemy, and the likes, Data Camp, and all of that, or joining master classes. So you can do that. The pro to that is that they are self-paced. To a large extent, so many of them are self-paced. Your learning option is very flexible. So nobody is telling you, you have to finish this particular thing within 1 week.
Yeah, fine.
Nobody is insisting that you finish something within 1 week or anything like that. So you have the option to, learn at your own pace. And it also gives you some preliminary knowledge in the field. So imagine that you're trying to consider whether or not to get a master's degree in data science or artificial intelligence or cloud computing and any of that stuff. You're not sure if it's for you. You're not sure if you're going to survive taking that course. So you can go online and take maybe a 4 to 6 weeks course. It gives you some rudimentary knowledge, helps you understand what is expected, gives you, an overview of what this is about. And then you can decide afterward if it's something you want to do. The disadvantage of this is that most times, you don't get feedback for the work you've done. I know that if you learn on Udacity, you take their nano degrees, you will get feedback from mentors that they have on the platforms, but this isn't available on sites like Coursera and edX and the likes. And also practice data sets might be unavailable to you. So I always encourage people, when you're trying to learn analytics, it's very important that you practice as you learn. Don't just learn theories up and down and then get lost. So when I give you one very simple transactional data set, maybe the sales data of a company, you don't know what to do with it. University degrees, very important. There are some jobs you will never get unless you have maybe a master's or a PhD in data science or stuff like that. So you may need that depending on where you're heading to. The pros, a lot of companies dig it, so you might want to do that. You have access to mentors, there are professors, you have access to feedback also while you're learning. The disadvantage, very expensive. and not flexible. So if you're someone who has a full-time job and you're trying to maybe take a master's degree, or you're working part-time and all of that, when I say flexibility here, I mean you're working at a specified timeline. They tell you this course is a 12-month course. And so within that 12 months, you have covered the complete syllabus already. So not everybody has that, not everybody is able to go with that. And then boot camps, they're short-term, they're intense training sessions. The pro, you have access to industry professionals, so many of them. I just attended one with Data Science Nigeria. Very interesting 5-day session. It gives you a good primer. There are some things I hadn't heard about that I heard about for the first time and got time to understand what they were talking about there. So this is also useful to you if you want to do that. The disadvantage, a lot of boot camps are actually paid for, especially if you're outside Nigeria. You actually have to pay for them. So there's not always the option to do it for free like Data Science Nigeria would offer you. So if you're in Nigeria, then you take advantage of DSN. They give very good stuff. So which option is benefit? Which option should you take? I would say at this point, you should understand how you learn. If you're somebody with really good discipline, you can self-motivate, then online may work for you. It's flexible, but you're able to put yourself on a strict timeline to start and finish. You say 6 weeks is 6 weeks. 6 weeks doesn't turn into 10 months. If you can't do that, then I'd advise that you try to get help from in-person classes where they actually give you strict timelines to follow. So do that instead. And either way you decide to go, you can always partake in a boot camp. I encourage you to do Data Science Nigeria if you're within Nigeria. They have about 7 weeks, about 7 to 12 weeks training sessions, first of all. And then they give you a midterm practice data set to a hackathon. You do that, and then you complete the pre-bootcamp training, and then you get a final hackathon again, where you have to beat a couple of other people on the chat. And then if you're you fall within the cutoff range, then you get to attend the bootcamp and have the time of your life right there. So it's all up to you at this point. You get a chance to look at this later when the slides are shared. This is from 365 Data Science, and it explains some of the confusion people have trying to learn this. A data scientist is not a business analyst. It's not a data analyst. These are different roles. It's not a data engineer or a data architect. So each role, sometimes they overlap, and sometimes the problem is that HR themselves don't know what they're asking for. They copy and paste whatever they see online. You apply for a data scientist role and you realize at the end that you're just doing business analytics for them instead. So some people don't like to build beautiful dashboards. Some people want to work on research and modeling and solving real deep problems. And some people are comfortable interfacing with the business, understanding what the business does and helping them derive insight from the data they have. So you need to understand what it is you want to do. Too many people often ask me how they can become data scientists. And the first question I ask them is, what exactly do you want to do? And sometimes when they are done explaining, I realize that what they just want to do is to become maybe data analysts or something like that. So what do you need to learn? First of all, mathematics. Understand linear algebra, differential calculus, statistics and probability, very important. You can learn this on Khan Academy, KHAN Academy. It's a really good platform for learning basics of this stuff. You don't really need to go so deep, but you need to understand the fundamentals, what they're about. Then learn Excel. I say Excel because, especially if you're in Nigeria, there are many companies here. We have about 80% of our businesses here, small businesses, small and medium-sized enterprises. Some of these companies cannot afford to have some cloud database somewhere where, very sophisticated architecture. They don't have that kind of money. Some of these people will only ever be able to afford Office 365. And if you can't use what they have, then really, what use are you to them? Some of them can't pay for Tableau subscriptions or Alteryx or ClickView, all of that. They don't have that, So you need to be able to use what is available. And the most available thing is Excel. And it is so available that every other thing I have listed on this slide have an Excel integration. You can import data from Excel. You can export it back to Excel. You can import, all of this, everything here. And some of this, like regression analysis, you can do them on Excel too. It's going to require a lot more, tweaking and coding, but it does that too. So learn Excel, then learn SQL. What I found out is that so many companies, even when you are in the position that doesn't specifically say data scientist or data analyst, they use SQL a lot. So you can use it to wrangle your data. It's important. So it's important you learn that. And then a lot of companies do. I know Deloitte does that. If you want to get into the data analyst role, your coding test is on SQL. It's not Python, it's not R, it's not anything else. It's just SQL. So you need to know that. And then learn to code. Learn Python or learn R. I don't like questions that people ask me, should I learn Python or should I learn R? Which is more useful, which is more important? Honestly, I don't know. I have friends who use Python. I know people who use R, and I use R. Some people say Python is easier. I feel like R is easier. Again, I don't know. So depending on what you want to do, if you come from a statistics background, you might find R easier to pick up. Otherwise, if you come from an engineering background, you have prior coding experience, you might find that Python is easier for you to pick up. But whichever case, pick one, learn that one fully, and then have a working knowledge of the other one. That's my advice. Data visualization and reporting, Tableau, Power BI, Outreach, ClickView. You don't need to learn all four. You can learn one. Once you know one, it's not difficult to learn how the other ones work. It's like using QuickBooks and then realizing that Sage and Xero and all of that are almost the same thing. What is our drag and drop interfaces? Coding is not required except you want to do some really deep task, then you may need to code. Ethics. Ethics is important to us. You need to learn how to source for information, integrity in information collection, understanding how customers want their data to be used. These are important things you need to keep in mind so that you don't lose track of the fact that you just want to understand that and then you just get it from any source. So ethics in data collection and in usage of this information is very important to us. Then you can go into machine learning where you can learn all the modeling you want to do. So many courses on that online. And most important, practice. Anything you learn, get data sets. There's so many data sets online. You can go on Kaggle, you can go on Zindi, data.gov. I think Google has a database also where there's just too many data there. If you use R have data sets within R Studio that you can actually use, very popular data sets. The most popular is the Titanic data set. Get that, do the visualization on it. You can do the prediction, see, try to, work on a machine learning model and see if you can predict how many people would have died on the ship and all of that. So do that. Start a pet project of your own. What interests you? What are you actually working on right now? And then think of, as you're learning, think of how what you're learning can be useful to you at the place where you are. You might just be in school and maybe something you're doing in school is very weird and you feel like this process can be made better. It can be automated, it can be augmented. Think of how what you are learning can actually aid the process, right? So that can be a pet project, because when you interview with interviewers, they want to see, you say, I'm a data science enthusiast. What have you been doing with that enthusiasm? What have you done with it? So get a pet project or just work on practice sets. People did so much with the COVID data sets that are available, really impressive stuff. And then follow and engage with the community. There's a whole community out there on social media. If you're on LinkedIn, you can just run a search on data analyst and you see so many people with that title doing very incredible work wherever they are. And you can follow them. Some people make posts about that regularly. Read their posts, go on Twitter, the same thing. On Facebook groups are fantastic. You can go on Facebook and join groups where, this stuff are discussed. And then you learn new things. Again, learn soft skills. People focus so much on the technical aspect, they don't think so much about the soft skills. So learn your soft skills, how to communicate, thinking critically, digging deep into questions to find answers, problem solving skills, be curious, have a curiosity to learn more, to know more. Google is your best friend. And if you use Google regularly, find out that Stack Overflow is like the most important website anybody in programming goes to. If you answer a dot on Stack Overflow, I'm not sure if it's somewhere else. It has to be there. So learn to Google the information you want. You might have just a sketchy idea of what it is about. So just put that on Google, and then you'll find that so many other people have had to deal with an issue like that. And you get to learn more from their codes and what they've done and how they've addressed situations. Be comfortable with uncertainty. You saw the point, I said 97% accuracy rate. It might never be 100%. Get comfortable with that. It is a machine, not a human being. And even you as a human being, you still get confused with so many things. So get comfortable with that. Have a business-oriented mindset. Understand what the business wants and how the information you are getting from this data is useful to them, to that business at that particular time. If it's not useful to them, then you've not created value with that data. So you always want to create value. Learn how to manage your time. Sometimes some things will be a dead end. Don't kill yourself on it, move on. Sometimes the data you have will just be a whole bunch of noise. There's nothing useful there. Know when to stop and move on to something else, and be open to feedback. You're not always going to be right. There'll always be more efficient ways to do something. Get comfortable with people criticizing your work and giving you feedback on them. Okay, so this is from Kaggl's recent survey for data scientists on their website. So take a quick look at this, because we're talking about data. There are more men than women, obviously, in the field. We need more women to join this community. So it's not a man's thing, it's an everybody's thing. Get comfortable with that. Age range is between 22 years and 44. So many people are being early to mid-career professionals, mid-management roles. So yeah, and then you can link this to educational level. 24% bachelor's degree. So some of the information you might get from data are actually very intuitive. If I'm getting people within 24 years old, I'm thinking to myself, these people are probably getting out of school with their bachelor's degree. Your intuition does not disappear when you see data and you think about analytics. You need to bring your intuition into everything you're doing. And then popular learning resources, Coursera, Udemy, I named most of this earlier on. So take advantage of these sites. You can learn so much from them. Set up a learning plan. Know what I've given a list of things you should learn. Some sites like Data Camp and Udacity, okay, Data Camp especially. Sometimes for some courses, they take you through everything. It's all part of the course. They take you through the statistics, the maths, all of that. So you can just take that, the data analyst, maybe data analyst course in R or in Python, and just do all of it, and you'll be covered. On Coursera, there's this IBM data scientist course, I think, that goes through Python. It takes you from the beginning and covers everything that has to do with that. Microsoft used to have one on EDX, but EDX is down here to 2.5%. But I think they archived that course. I don't know if they are going to bring it back again. And I think this particular course has ethics in it. So learn all of that. People with programming background. I said before, you don't need programming background. Most people here, 1 to 2 years, 17.3%. And there's no guarantee that says these people are not just new into the field. They probably just came in and began to learn all this stuff. So they don't have two heads. You can do the same too. So where do you go from here? We're rounding up now. I'm going forward. Set up a development plan. You understand where you want to go to and how you're going to get there. So map out a plan for yourself. Use SMART goals, okay? Let it make sense. Let it be relevant to what you want to do. Give yourself a timeline you're going to use to, achieve what you want to do. Focus on impact. Don't just learn for learning's sake. Like I said before, while you're learning, think about how it's going to be useful for whatever field you are in. There's no a must that you will learn data science and then you now say you want to switch roles and become a data scientist. You can use it where you are, make your job better. Send a proposal to your boss and say, let's use our data better. You get yourself a promotion just like that. Don't forget your soft skills as much as you learn your technical skills. If you get so many numbers and you cannot communicate that information to the relevant stakeholders, you've not created value for them. You just know numbers, that's all, with beautiful dashboards. And then stay abreast of industry changes and developments in the field. So much is changing. There are many new discoveries every day. You need to stay abreast, be on the news, see what's going on per time so you know what you're doing. So you have a role to play here. We all say data is the new gold. And we want it to remain that way. We want this data to continuously become gold. But the role you have to play in this is to educate people about data literacy. Not everybody understands this. We define data literacy before as being able to read, understand the sources, communicate the value of information that gotten from data to people, contribute to data governance, how data is sourced and how it's used, and then think long term. In the organization that you find yourself, consider the tools that are currently available and what may be available in the future. So people sometimes end up committing so much money to one particular software and then tomorrow it's obsolete. And you can't just get back the money you have committed there. So think long term at every point in time. We are going to end with the most interesting advert I've seen in recent time. I think it's going to wrap up all of this properly. It's the advert for the Apple Watch 6.
Imagine a future where one day machine learning will give you the power to track your sleep. Imagine.
Excuse me, ma'am?
Yes? Can I help you?
Yeah, this already does that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, now you do.
Okay, let's try this again. It's all right, I'll start again. Imagine one day a tiny device with an optical sensor will send you an alert if your heart rate is too low. Yes? What? It already does that. What? Oh, okay. Well, how about we'll send you an alert if your heart rate is too high?
It already does that!
All right, let's try something new. We'll send you an alert if you're someplace that's too loud!
I just received one of those alerts.
Really? Well, you should probably find a quieter place, sir.
You should probably mind your own business.
Ugh. Okay, imagine one day in the future.
Hold on.
No, let me finish.
1 second.
You'll be able to take an ECG.
It already does that.
It already does that.
I heard that.
Good. What about continuously track your elevation? Does it do that?
Does that.
Right, got it.
Does that.
Thank you.
Does that.
Yep, heard it the first time. Encourages you to stay fit.
Does that.
Okay, I get it. You're fit. I don't know. Will it automatically call 911 if a bear chases you off a cliff and you take a hard fall? Huh?
Yeah, already does that.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
You gotta be kidding me. Okay. I got it. Let's go from the top. Imagine a day, a future. Imagine a future. One day, tiny device, blah, 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 that uses red and infrared light to measure your blood oxygen level. Yes? What? No. Don't you dare say it. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Very cute. Well, that was fun.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Right here, we have exactly how data can be useful to you in your daily activities at home, right on your wrists, with home appliances, with your computers, your smart televisions, and all of that. So data really is the new gold. And I encourage everyone today to learn more about it and how it can be applicable to you wherever you find yourself. Thank you very much for your time.
This has really been a mind-blowing section. Like, I don't want you to end the section. I really want you to keep talking. Like, there are questions already waiting for you, but left for me, I would want you to just continue talking. So I'm kind of feeling emotional that you have to go, but notwithstanding, we need to quickly pick some questions that have been dropped by the participants. So I will quickly go through them before we finally do the wrap up. So let me start with the first question. So one of the participants is asking how they can use data to improve their scholarship application.
All right. So I think I had a discussion with Babajide a while back, and I'm on a group where a couple of people are constantly applying to graduate schools all the time. And one of the advantages a couple of them have gotten is that because they have prior knowledge of how to use some of these tools, targeted at a particular problem that they have in mind, you have a better story to tell. You are demonstrating, a will right here. You're saying, I have interest in understanding, give me an example here. maybe the healthcare sector, right? How people, you want to encourage people into more healthy habits, maybe exercising and all of that. And then you are learning how data analytics is applicable in the healthcare sector. Maybe you've done some work, you've done some pet projects already on that. That is a story you can talk about. If you're applying to get a supervisor or they call them supervisors, right, in graduate schools, to work with when you get into school, you can tell this person, oh, I already know how to use R. I already know how to use Python. I know how to use SAS, stuff like that. They want people like this who already understand this too. So you get on their team and you hit the ground running. So it's very useful to you if you're going to be in academia or you just want to get a thought master's degrees, whatever. In schools, you're going to write your statement of purpose, right? So when I said earlier that trying to learn about this, you need to, don't just let it be a general thing you're learning because everybody is learning it at the same time. Think of a problem you want to solve, and then think of how this can be applicable in solving that problem, whether it's to augment it or to automate the issue, whatever it is, and then start working on that now, so that when you're telling your story, you have convincing things to tell. And whoever is reading the application and say, oh, this person is really doing impressive work somewhere, so it's an applied science, basically. It's an applied tool. Don't just learn, everybody's doing it, so I want to do it too. That's a very silly way to learn. Let it be tied to something. That's what I'm going to say. And then as you write your application essays or your school SOP and all of that, tailor it to this. Say, this is what I am focusing on today. This is the problem in my society. This is how I want to fix this, what I have done so far, what I'm learning so far, because it's going to help me fix that problem. That's a more convincing story to tell. Again, I'm not the admissions board, and they don't have stuff they're looking for. I think anybody who can put stuff like this in the application, you probably want some heart to that.
So it's more like everybody needs to discover their strengths and look for what works for them and work towards that when applying for a scholarship.
Yeah.
So the next question is, someone is asking, what kind of data do they need to ensure effectiveness in personal development?
Okay, so when you say personal development, that's actually a very umbrella term, to the best of my knowledge. What are you trying to develop? Are you trying to learn something new? Are you trying to get into a field and maybe break into that field? What are you trying to do? And then what are your habits like on a daily basis? That's data right there looking at you. What do you spend your time on? So data doesn't really necessarily have to be numbers you see all over the internet or stuff like that. It's your daily habits also. It's what you do, what you spend your time doing. So if per se I'm telling myself today, okay, I want to have maybe a PhD in the next 7 years, right? What are you spending your time doing now? How will you get to the point where you have the application ready, you have the schools ready, you're sending those applications, writing whatever letters and essays you need to write and all of that? What are you doing now? If you're spending that time on Netflix, then that is data for you right there. You're not doing anything useful to get you to the point where you want to be. So consider your daily habits now, and then see what you need to change and tweak to get you to whatever personal development goals that you have in mind.
Wow. So the next question is, so one of the participants is asking if they can get access to your slide.
Yeah, sure, you can. I'll share this with the program coordinators afterwards and you can get access to it.
Okay. So they should be expecting it from the program coordinator. So
Yeah.
The next question is, what kind of job does data analyst get?
So if you are in an industry, so you can be in consulting or you can be in industry. If you are in industry, then you are doing whatever it is the company that hired you wants you to do. Right. And if you're in consulting, then you're going to end up working with different industries, again, doing whatever it is they need you to do with their data. The point, like I said before, is business use case. what does this business want? What do they need? Where is this data? They need you to source it by yourself, or do they already have it on hand but need you to make sense of it for them to get, whatever information is worth finding there? What do they need to know? Do they need to understand their customers better? Do they need to understand why they're having losses, maybe what area of their operation? Businesses basically are interested in three things, right? They want to increase revenue, they want to manage their costs, they want to improve operational efficiency. So how can you use their data to help them solve maybe all those three issues, or one or two or three of them, as the case may be, depending on what they want?
Wow. So I would say that today's section has really been wonderful. Like, it keeps getting like more interesting, more fantastic as the day goes by. And we have less than a minute to go. So there are still one or two questions we will not be able to touch because of time factor. And we want to, in a special way, appreciate everyone, most especially our speaker, who has made today a very wonderful day for each and every one of us. I've been blessed. I learned something today. I also know that everyone who has participated in today's section, or who has started from the first day of this section, must have learned something. And one of the things I learned today is anything you learn, practice. Like, don't stop practicing. Keep practicing till you get perfect. So on a final note, I would want our speaker to give us her final words.
Finia, you really love final words. Okay, on another finality. On a final note, I'll say be very intentional about this. Data analytics, data science, it's not going anywhere. It's only going to become more and more infused in our lives, not just in work, but in your personal life. So get intentional and try to understand how your information is constantly being used. When you visit websites, when you fill forms, read the fine print, see what they intend to do with the data they collect. It's a good way for you to also learn how things work and get some more data literacy. There are laws on ground currently today that prevent companies from using data without your information. So be very intentional about your learning. Take control of your development plan. The person who asked about personal development journey, be very intentional about that. Know what you want to do and know how you intend to get there, and remove every form of distraction from your path. You need to be very disciplined about this field. You're not going to learn everything in 3 months. You won't even learn it in 1 year. It's a marathon. In fact, you're going to spend the rest of your life like a lawyer or you're in the medical field learning this stuff, because there'll always be new things every day. You will get frustrated sometimes. You will intend to give up eventually at some point, but encourage yourself. Ask yourself why you started in the first place and just keep pushing. Some people you started with will not complete with you. They will fall on the wayside, but you are not them. So just focus on your journey. It's yours. Find mentors, find a community of people who can egg you on when you feel like you're about to give up. And you're going to enjoy all of this. I promise you. I enjoy it. I believe you're also going to do so too. Thank you very much.
All right, so we're going to see you again tomorrow for another section by 12 to 1 and another evening section that promised to be as spectacular and as amazing as today's section. So in the meantime, we are going to say bye for now. And remember to always think long time. Bye for now.